pause for a moment and look at the device in your hand. Look at the quiet screen in front of you. It's strange, isn't it, how something as small as a delayed message or an unexpected silence can stir emotions we pretend not to feel. The truth is, these moments reveal a deeper pattern, one that shapes how we are perceived, valued, and ultimately remembered. For years, many of us have lived with a quiet assumption that kindness guarantees closeness, that constant availability earns loyalty, that unwavering support is always reciprocated. Society often tells us that the more you give, the more others will treasure you. But reality rarely works that way. If you look back through history, from the dynamics of ancient courts to the complexities of modern social circles, one truth remains remarkably clear. People respond not just to your intentions, but to your presence. Some individuals seem to attract attention the moment they enter a room without speaking or trying. Others, despite giving more than anyone else, remain overlooked. This exploration isn't about learning to manipulate anyone. It's about understanding the deep-seated psychology that governs attraction, respect, and human connection. We're going to examine the patterns of human behavior observed for centuries and reinterpret them ethically for our modern lives. The goal is simple: to help you strengthen the inner qualities that make your presence noticeable and truly meaningful. It all starts with this idea: value begins with presence. When you make yourself endlessly available, responding instantly, rearranging your schedule for others, offering your time without boundaries, you unintentionally teach those around you to take that presence for granted. This isn't because they are unkind, but because the human mind naturally overlooks what is always accessible. Psychologists sometimes call this familiarity, saturation. Even ancient thinkers warned about it. When something becomes too common, its impact slowly fades. But this doesn't mean you should withdraw from people or isolate yourself. Far from it. It means your life should contain its own rhythm, its own commitments, its own direction. When you prioritize your goals, your stability, and your personal growth, your presence becomes intentional. Your time holds inherent value. Your absence then becomes noticeable in a healthy way, not as a punishment, but as a natural consequence of a full and engaging life. People gravitate toward those whose world does not collapse around the approval of others. Ask yourself quietly, have I been offering myself too freely without noticing the cost? Predictability can be comforting, but it rarely creates a lasting impact. The people who captivate us the most are never one-dimensional. They carry a layered emotional presence, calm in one moment, expressive in another, thoughtful but not rigid, warm but not overly eager. These individuals feel vividly alive. So many of us, however, fall into emotional patterns that reduce us to a single tone. Always agreeable, always apologizing, always trying to keep the peace. But emotional monotony leads to emotional invisibility. You cannot be memorable if you compress your personality just to avoid potential discomfort for others. The most magnetic individuals possess what you might call emotional range. They adapt with grace. They express themselves without losing composure. They remain authentically themselves in every situation. This creates a sense of depth, something that draws others closer. Not through performance, but through a genuine and controlled authenticity. It's about being real, not just being nice. There is another form of presence that carries tremendous power. The ability to understand the emotional world inside another human being. Everyone, without exception, carries fears, hopes, insecurities, and unspoken desires. Most of our daily interactions barely touch the surface of these internal landscapes. But every so often, you meet someone who listens with true intention. They hear the pauses, not just the words. They notice your contradictions without judging them. They ask the question that lies beneath your question. This level of attunement, deep, quiet, and sincere, is unforgettable. When someone feels seen, truly seen, they form a bond stronger than any charm or clever technique could ever create. This isn't influence through manipulation. It is profound connection through understanding. It's about making someone feel like they are the only person in the room. And this leads to a critical question I want to ask all of you in the comments. Do you think most people crave to be understood more than they crave to be loved? Let me know your thoughts below. Another powerful shift happens when you stop placing people on pedestals. Many of us grow up believing that beauty, confidence, mystery, or status make certain individuals untouchable. When you idealize someone, you shrink yourself emotionally. You begin to think in terms of your own worthiness rather than simple compatibility. But the moment you see that person as human, real, imperfect, vulnerable, the emotional hierarchy completely disappears. You no longer approach interactions from a place of inferiority or fear. Instead, you step forward as an equal. The dynamic becomes balanced, grounded, and authentic. Pedestals create anxiety. Equality creates connection. So, how do we begin to embody these principles in our own lives? It starts with small, deliberate actions. Instead of immediately replying to every text, take a moment. Allow yourself the space to live your life outside of that notification. Instead of automatically saying yes to every request, pause and ask yourself if it aligns with your own priorities. This isn't selfish, it's self-respect. Practice developing your emotional range. Allow yourself to be quiet and reflective in one conversation, and animated and passionate in another. Stop editing your genuine reactions to make others comfortable. As long as you are respectful, your true feelings deserve to be expressed. Your authenticity is your greatest asset. And perhaps most importantly, practice deep listening. The next time you're with someone, put your phone away. Look them in the eye. Listen not just to what they say, but to what they don't say. Ask questions that show you're trying to understand their world, not just waiting for your turn to speak. You will be amazed at how people open up when they feel genuinely heard. Remember, the goal isn't to become distant or mysterious for the sake of it. The goal is to cultivate a life so rich and centered that your presence becomes a gift, not an expectation. It's about building an inner world so strong that your value is self-evident, not something you have to prove. When you respect your own time, your own energy, and your own emotional truth, others will naturally begin to do the same. Your presence will not only be noticed, it will be valued, remembered, and sought after. We now moving into the deeper layers of presence, the internal qualities that truly shape how you move through the world and how people respond to you. First, let's talk about silence. Silence holds a rare kind of power. We live in an era where everyone is constantly filling the air with explanations, reactions, and updates. In this noisy world, silence has become almost symbolic. It speaks of self-control, of patience, and of the ability to just sit with your own thoughts without needing to project them outward. Think about it. When you pause before you respond, when you choose your words with intention, When you resist that urge to react impulsively, you create an aura of stability. People feel this instantly. Silence communicates a level of confidence that noise never can. It tells the world that you don't panic when faced with uncertainty, that you don't feel the need to rush and fill every empty moment. It shows that you trust your own presence. This kind of restraint actually strengthens your interactions. Your words begin to carry more weight because they aren't just scattered thoughts, they're chosen. Your reactions feel grounded and thoughtful, not explosive and chaotic. Your presence becomes calm, measured, and quietly commanding. People start to lean in to hear what you have to say because they know it will be worth listening to. Now, let's explore a second pivotal transformation, developing the ability to walk away. This isn't about making a threat or playing emotional games. It's a genuine expression of independence. So many people lose their sense of identity in relationships because they tie their self-worth to someone else's attention. This attachment creates fear, a fear of being alone, a fear of being rejected, a fear of being replaced. But true independence dissolves that fear. When your life is full, when you have your own passions, your own routines, your own friendships, and your own direction, you stop looking to emotional closeness for survival. Instead, connection becomes a choice you make from a place of strength, not desperation. Your boundaries become clear and non-negotiable. Your decisions become intentional. Your emotional balance no longer swings back and forth based on the shifting moods of others. And this independence doesn't make your relationships cold or distant. In fact, it makes them healthier. When two whole, complete individuals come together, the foundation they build is solid and secure. Here's a question for you. Do you think independence makes a relationship stronger, or does it create too much distance? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This brings us to the final shift that ties everything together: the mastery of the self. Most people lose control of their relationships not because others overpower them, but because they fail to manage their own impulses, their own fears, their own insecurities, and their own reactions. They might argue when they feel afraid, cling when they're anxious, withdraw when they get overwhelmed, or suppress their own needs just to avoid a conflict. But authentic influence begins from within. When you learn to control your inner world, your external world naturally begins to align. You become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to shake. This isn't because you're cold or unfeeling, but because you are anchored. You have a solid core. People respect stability. They trust consistency. They find themselves drawn to those who radiate a sense of calm direction. This isn't about dominance. It's about emotional gravity. You don't have to force people to notice youth. They simply do. You don't need to chase validation from others. You create your own presence. Your actions become intentional. Your words become meaningful. Your relationships become mutual and balanced. Your future becomes something shaped by clarity rather than fear. This is what it means to sit on your inner throne. It's not about having power over others, but about having authority over yourself. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Which idea in this documentary felt like the missing piece for you? If this video brought you some insight or a new perspective, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep, transformative psychological documentaries. Your journey doesn't end here. It starts here.